Hello and good welcome, and I've started off really high there. Hello and good welcome. Hello and good welcome. Come on. Hello and welcome to the United Stand. It's Sunday Night Live. Jose Mourinho has walked out of a press conference today, but to be honest, he caught them totally on their hop. What happened is there was, and I'm sure you've all seen it, everyone was watching the United players on the pitch, all the press. They thought Mourinho was there as well. He slipped out. He went through the interview bits. No one was there. He went into the interview room, press conference room. There was no one there. Any questions? No. Off he went. And apparently was out of Old Trafford by about 5:10. So Mourinho just wanting to get away, really, not wanting to take many questions, which is quite weird because you'd have thought he would have wanted to bask in the glory of that result, and you would have thought he would have wanted to give the youngsters who played really well a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of a pat on the back. But none of that. We've had no official comments from Mourinho. Anything was from MUTV to say, I've got a final on Wednesday, leave me alone. So pressure, yes. He admits it's win or bust. If we don't get into the Europa, if we're in the Europa League next year, we're in the same situation as Arsenal fans tonight, a big massive meltdown. So yeah, what a weird situation, and it doesn't instill you with so much confidence, does it? But let me just realise that meant to have Ross on with me tonight, but he's not here at the moment. So I do have a guest. I'm just going to get him on now, and we're going to fly straight into a few of the topics we want to talk about tonight. Because realistically, this is all about Wednesday night now. It's not about anything else. I enjoyed this afternoon, but I park it because it's tonight. It's tomorrow night, it's Wednesday night, that's the night, and we don't want Thursday meltdown. It is all about Wednesday and building up towards that. Rodney, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mark. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. First of all, just quickly, because I've got a clip to show in relation to Rooney, I want to start off on that, and we've got masses and masses to talk about. De Gea's tweet, what would you change for next season? What are you thinking about Wednesday? Loads and loads to talk about. But Mourinho getting himself out there quick tonight, not wanting to talk to the press. I don't really know what Mourinho's issue is at the moment. Is it pressure? Is he annoyed with something? I don't know whether I've missed it. Does anyone else know at home? I really would have thought that he would have wanted to speak to the press today, just to sort of say, up yours to all this I don't use youth. I've got the youngest player ever playing for United in the Premier League, and some of them kids were fantastic tonight. But he doesn't want to do it. Do you think it is pressure?
It could be, but I wouldn't say it is. I think the fact that he played the youth, that isn't kind of up yours. And I think that in itself, it means he doesn't have to say anything to the press. It's a very difficult situation for him to actually go and speak to the fans at the end of the season, considering the pressure that he has had.
Yeah.
From the media generally. I think this is his way of getting ready for Wednesday, because he's put himself in kind of siege mentality mode.
Yeah.
So not talking to the media within the club, not talking to the media outside of the club, and just slipping away while the players actually go around and do their lap of honour is probably the best way for him to get ready, because the players are not going to dwell on anything that he said, nor are they going to dwell on anything that the media rakes up or kind of plays with between now and Wednesday. So I think that's quite smart. For me, I think that's quite smart, because you can be blamed for saying the wrong things, but you might as well be blamed for saying nothing. And then when it goes right, you can then come out and say up yours.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. People are talking about De Gea. We will be talking about De Gea. Don't worry about that. Ross, are you with us now?
How you doing, mate?
How you doing? All right. I just wanted to make sure that you were there. Okay, I'm just going to show everybody a clip here. It was sent in by United Stand in the Chance, who is, I've probably said that wrong, but he's a regular on the live comments. And I want to really just, I've been quite critical of Rooney over the season, last 2 or 3 seasons, but there was this moment. We can all share it now, and then we'll quickly talk about it. So let's get it up. So there's that moment in all its glory. Wayne Rooney coming off the Old Trafford pitch and Angel Gomez coming on. Angel Gomez has a fantastic future at Manchester United, a really great moment. I don't want to dwell on him too much because his future is to be written, and I think that will be a moment that we look back on. However, a few people saying to me tonight, getting in contact saying, I don't know why you're saying Rooney's going. He's not going to go. He won't be going this summer, and that is the latest rumour at United. I'll start with you, Ross. For me, you could read that one of two ways today. I don't know. I was convinced he was going.
Yeah, me too, mate. Me too. Firstly, I just want to give me a shout if my audio's off because I'm not using my headphones as normal. But there was no goodbye today from Rooney, which I was kind of expecting, to be honest. So these people that are messaging you, Mark, I'm kind of swaying with them now. I think he might actually stay because I think if he was going to go, he would have known it, and there would have been a bit more of it. Like I think David De Gea said. You talk about it later, but I think De Gea said goodbye today. I don't think Rooney did, and I don't think Rooney expects to go. But if he stays, he's going to have to realise that he might not play so much next season. But that might be what he wants. But I just hope that it doesn't. Like I said earlier in the watch along, Mark, I just hope it doesn't go sour between Rooney and the fans because I don't want this legacy to be trashed. And if he stays, I just have a concern that it will.
United in the Stands Chance was the person who sends us those clips in. Big shout out to him. He's got his own YouTube channel. He's in the live comments. Go and give it a subscribe. But he has actually come back and said after the match it looked like he was going. Obviously we didn't see any of that. I wasn't there, obviously, and so I don't know what that situation is. United Fan says, as Mark said, it's passing on the torch. And Professor Fatcake says Rooney was a misfit today. I don't know, Rodney, what's your thoughts on the Rooney situation?
Well, I mean, Mark, you heard me say that he's, in terms of him as a great player, he's been nowhere near that for the past 2 or 3 years. I would have thought, like many people, that this was his last season at United. But then a few days ago, last week, he says that he wants to stay at the club, but he wants to play more. If he stays, he has to accept that he's a squad player from now on. And that in itself will damage the legacy of him as a great player. Now, it depends what he wants. Does he actually want to stay at United? And if he does want to stay, in what capacity and for how long? Because he's on a big salary. And someone that's taking that amount of money out of the club, who isn't playing week in, week out, you've got to be doing something else other than just either sitting on the bench. Is he going to do his coaching badges? Is he going to become one of the backroom staff? I mean, those are the questions you've got to ask individuals like Wayne Rooney. And when you think about someone else who ended their career today at another club way down in London, Rooney's nowhere near that age. He still has a good 2 years left in him. So it's not about what we think, it's about what does he want? Because if he stays, as fans, we know he's a squad player and he's not playing every week.
Yeah. Jose wants people to know the season isn't over and we need to keep going. Says, let's go Fosu Mensa. I think that's a very good interpretation of it. Real Madrid are the champions, which I'm happy about. I'd rather that than Barca, to be honest. And Paul Cooper says Rooney's a fat mess and should be playing in non-league. Get to the point, Paul. I mean, I'll just quickly, before we move on from Rooney, it's very easy for me. He has been a Manchester United great. He's not been so great for the last 3 years. But if it was down to me, I'd be kicking him out this summer because the issue for me is he just doesn't offer anything. He doesn't offer anything on the pitch. I don't care how much he's paid. It's irrelevant to me because Manchester United are rolling in it. But what I do care about is that because of who Wayne Rooney is and has been, he's always going to be the first one who comes on as a sub. He's always going to get games. He's just not good enough. So I would get rid of him, Ross. Would you be happy to keep him?
No, I wouldn't. And based on that, do you know what? I think Rooney could. His legacy wouldn't get tarnished if he become a squad player because I think Giggs and Scholes become squad players towards the end. But yeah, they're still absolute legends in my eyes. It's the fact that Giggs and Scholes always offered something. Coming off the bench from a set piece, assists galore. I watched Rooney come on the other day, or played the other day, and I mean, he couldn't get a corner past the first man. His free kicks were abysmal, and that's the part of his game that he's lost. And And that's so frustrating for me. And it's not even a fitness thing. He's lost his powers, which is it's just happened. He burst on the scene so early. He's been in the game 15 years, which is about right for an attacking player. It's just coming to the end, and I just want him to. I want him to call a day on his time at United and leave with this grace. But I just don't think that's going to happen. And I think he will be a squad player this season. Like you said, Mark, the money's irrelevant, and I think the money the players are on is comparison to basically what they pull in anyway. He's still a huge market for Manchester United, so there might be that might be swaying us towards keeping him, to be honest. But I just think that I just can't. To be honest, Mark, I can't sit here next season and do these Sunday shows every week and talking about Wayne Rooney, because it just starting to annoy me. I just want him out and the problem gone.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Gary S says, you read all the bad comments about Rooney and none of the good. I'm not a magician, mate. I can't magic good comments. I don't see any good comments. I mean, all I can see is bad comments. I think, it's not hate. I think people... Let's move on anyway, because it's all about, as I said this afternoon, it's all about Wednesday. And we've got a massive preview on Tuesday night. We've got a massive show on Wednesday night. We've got Sky at Goldbridge tomorrow night where you lot can call in. And I'm more than happy to start moving towards it now, because the Premier League's finished and it's all about Wednesday night. Win or bust, Mourinho says. It's not win or bust because he won't get the sacked. What I have fear... I think we all have fear and trepidation about is that Thursday we could be like Arsenal tonight, in total meltdown and not knowing where to look. I mean, Liverpool in the Champions League winds me up, but we did it ourselves. We put them into fourth place. We should be in fourth place. As bad as our season's been, we should be fourth place. Liverpool are not a good team. Christmas has come early, but we've got this opportunity on Wednesday. We all said it all season. If we had the choice between fourth place and the Europa League, we'd take the Europa League because it's a trophy. How confident, Rodney, are you about Wednesday night, and what do you think we know about that team on Wednesday? I think I can pick it. Do you? Or do you think there's still a couple of places up for grabs?
Right, okay. In terms of being confident about Wednesday, I'm probably 70% confident. But I am. I think that, in terms of our club's pedigree and the finals we've been in, there is that behind us. I couldn't predict the squad because from today's result and the performances today, Mourinho must be thinking there are a couple of individuals who have showed their mettle today, and they've stood up against quite physical Crystal Palace, and I think that they would rise again if they were asked to step into another environment. And he's probably looking at it thinking, I could add a few more individuals to the squad list. But in terms of naming the squad, I don't think I could name it right now.
Okay.
I couldn't name it.
No worries. Gary S says, read this, Mark. Rooney's a legend. You are now the only one to say anything positive. It's official. And Jake Pert says, I'm absolutely terrified. I think I go through moments of being scared and nervous and everything. That's typical. But I think today has been took my eye off it, really. I've quite enjoyed it. And it's starting to come back now, and it will kick in tomorrow. Santonos Rabbi says, I'm being too harsh on Liverpool. I think you're on the wrong channel, mate. There'll be people a lot harsher on Liverpool than me. I tell you what. Andrew Tadros says, Liverpool are a better side than United, and you say we're not a good team. Look, I'm not going to argue with the finished Premier League. I can't argue with that. It doesn't lie at the end of the season. But what I know is Manchester United at home this season against poor sides should have at least another 10 points. And I'm not including Everton. That was a draw and it was a fair result. But we should have at least another 10 points. And we don't have them because we didn't put the ball in the back of the net. And if Liverpool fans came back at me and said, oh, well, we could have done that. I watched you play Crystal Palace. You got played off the park. You had one shot on goal. We've had like 150 shots on goal and scored 5 goals. It's not good enough. I don't applaud Liverpool. It's not in my makeup to do that. But they are where they deserve to be because we put them there. And I firmly believe that. Ross, let's expand it a little bit. Apparently Lingard had a fantastic first half today and a great assist, and Martial was atrocious and doesn't deserve to be anywhere near the starting lineup. Not my words, the words of about 80% of the comments I had on my match reaction, because I said that Martial was put into dead men's shoes by Mourinho in the second half. Lingard's audition, he had Pogba, Martial's audition, he had Twansibi. I love Twansibi, but he's not a creative midfielder, and I think Martial was just hung out to dry, really. Didn't play that well, but I can't see him starting on Wednesday. I fear it'll be Lingard.
You know what? I think you're right with about who they played with and stuff. And Jose would be absolutely aware of that. He knows that Pogba will bring out the best in players, and he knows that without Pogba, I don't think players are going to play that well. But I don't think Lingard's going to start. I really don't. I said this on the watch along about 3 weeks ago. As soon as that semi-final game was finished, he was nailed on as the starting place. I think he's lost it. And I think sort of the determination of players like Juan Mata coming back from injury, I'm sort of swaying more towards him now. And I think tactically Juan Mata will work better because I think he cuts inside and overloads our left, which exposes space for Valencia, which is fantastic. And he unsettles a back four. So I'd go with Mata, and I think he will play. I'm not just saying that because I want it. I think that's what's going to happen. I just cannot see Jose playing Lingard in the form he's in, given he needs players he can trust, and I think Mata's one of them. I think you can trust Mata to always perform in a big game. Is Jesse that player? I know he's done it in a few finals, but he goes missing too much for me, and it's too much of a risk. Too much of a risk.
To be honest, I'll just be happy if Mata plays. I don't mind if it's Herrera, Pogba, Mata midfield 3. And I don't mind if it's Mata on the right instead of Lingard, but I just think Mata's got to play. I think if he plays what he has been doing in the semi-final, I mean, he could do it. This is my concern because sentimentality, Mourinho seems to put sentimentality ahead of common sense sometimes, because I've heard that he's going to pick the same team as the semi-final because they got him there. But he forgets that we were crap in the semi-final. We were really poor in that semi-final. We were one sitter away from going out. So if he goes Pogba, Herrera, Fellaini, and then Lingard, Mkhitaryan, and Rashford, I'll be terrified because there's two big weak links in the attack there. I think Fellaini will play. I do think he'll play because Carrick obviously played 45 minutes there, and I can't see how Fellaini can't be playing now. But it's got to be Mata. It's got to be Mata on the right, and then I'll be much more confident. But Pogba looked good today. Valencia comes back, he's had a big rest. Rashford's had a big rest. Herrera's had a big rest. We've got big players to come back, Rodney. And you know what? I agree with you. I think we've got to go into this game confidently because as fans, if we go into it negatively, we can be negative on Thursday, but we've got to go into it believe. And I'm just hoping that Ajax aren't the team that everyone thinks because I don't think they are.
Do you know the funniest thing is today's performance from all of the comments and feedback was the best. And I've been up to United this season and watched some of the games, and I've walked away like depressed. And when you play youth, they don't think about going side to side and passing the ball backwards. They want to go forward all the time. Now, you talked about Martial not having a great performance when he came on, but for me, when I look at him play, his first touch is okay if he's got time on the ball. But then when he starts to move forward and his second and his third and his fourth touch, that's when he starts to lose it. And I think those are the moments when you're on top of your game. You shouldn't be losing the ball. And I think that's why he may not start, because Mourinho doesn't want you to lose the ball in terms of transition period where the team is moving forward and you get caught on the counter-attack. Now, Ajax are quite good at counter-attacking. So he will want to be sure that he'll set up in a very steady way. So for me, like you, Mata has to start because his recovery in terms of coming back from the operation is a miracle because he shouldn't even be ready. He shouldn't be ready, but he definitely has to start. Pogba looked good. Valencia on the right, definitely. And hopefully Rashford up front. And the rest. I would say Twansibi in midfield, actually. Composure. I liked him.
Yeah, I was very. I mean, I must say I've been remiss there not to talk about the youth. I was very impressed with Twansibi and Fosu Mensah today because we didn't really treat them as youth players, even though they really are, and they're only just starting out themselves. But there's so many good performances today, Ross. I've heard Dimitri Mitchell called the new Marcello, Harrop the new Ryan Giggs. I'll be honest with you. Look, you've got to douse it with a big reality bite here. It's the last game of the season. It was a bit of a comfortable environment, dead rubber game. We've seen the same with Robbie Brady, James Wilson. Where are they now? I guarantee a lot of the players who played today probably won't be first team players, other than Twansibi and Fosu Mensah. But they did play well. It was a fantastic atmosphere, like Rodney said. It was a real... It was almost like, before a tense game on Wednesday, it was like a day off for us all today, and probably one of the best games at Old Trafford, certainly since Christmas. But what if I said this to you? Too late for Mourinho. Very easy to play a team full of youth in the last game of the season when it doesn't matter. But what about all season? Twansibi and Fosu Mensah especially have been ready all season, and he's ignored them. Too little, too late in relation to the youth. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd agree. And we were crying out for this in the early rounds of the League Cup and in the early rounds of the Europa League, to be honest. But do you know what? It's his first season in charge. He's going to make mistakes, and he's got to realise that. And I think he has by not playing these lads earlier. But I think games like today, even though it was a bit of a dead rubber game for us, it will change his opinion on maybe playing some of these kids, because they paid him back for his faith today, and I thought that was fantastic. And they all played really well, and they all look settled. And I know they're playing with some, playing with Paul Pogba must be fantastic, especially for our winger. I mean, that assist was ridiculous, but I think I think he's learned a lot from managing at Manchester United, and I think any manager would, because we don't run our club like any other club. I mean, you saw David Gold's comments about youth players for West Ham. I mean, if they're not going to get youth players through, what does that say about young English talent? But United bucked the trend, and I think that's fantastic. And I think Jose will learn, and he's beginning to learn. I said he would learn early in the season that even if this match was important, even if this was a fight for top four, if he'd have played that team, I don't think there'd have been many United fans, really howling at him, because we love seeing it. It's exciting for us. I'd rather see, 20 youth players than Jesse Lingard playing there. So he'll learn this, and he'll learn that the fans will support him in making these decisions. And I think this was a big step from Mourinho today. I know it was a dead rubber game, but all season he would have just played, like essentially our B team for today. But he's bucked that trend. He's given the lads a go, and they've paid him back. So it'll give him a headache in the summer. I agree with what you said, Mark. I don't think a huge amount of them, will ever break into our first team, because that's just what happens. But it will give him a headache going into sort of next summer of, do I go all out and buy a completely new first team, or do I just do a bit of patchwork and hope that some of these lads come through? It's an interesting one, but I think he's sort of learnt a lot from today's performance.
I think, in fairness, it was a perfect opportunity for him today to play players like Harrop and Mitchell and McTominay, Pereira in goal. It was and Gomez when he came on. But I've seen two players this season. Twansibi's sort of come up on the rails, and he's had a bit of game time, which has been fantastic. But I've seen two players this season that both, in my book, were ready. And I look at the performance in relation to some of the players this season, and that just confirms it. Fosu Mensah, to have 20 minutes in the Premier League before today, is ridiculously bad. And Pereira, he went on loan, he had a good loan, but I think he was ready as well. Those two players next season need to be consistently involved in the first team. I think all these young players that played today, get them out on loan to Championship clubs, see how they get on. That's their next step. All of them. I don't think any of them are anywhere near first team yet. They need to go and do it week in, week out in the Championship club, and not playing for the reserves, because that's the next step for them. But Mitchell was very impressive, I agree. Now go and do it in the Championship. That's your next step in your progression. A lot of Liverpool fans joining us tonight. There's a hand there. Talk to it. You finished 4th place. We've got a cup to play with on Wednesday. We'll talk to you on Thursday. Let's see where we are then. Let's talk David De Gea. David De Gea, Rodney. Just to summarise, I don't know whether everybody knows it. I've not seen his Instagram. I've not been on Instagram for a few hours, but I've seen his tweet basically saying, thanks for your unconditional support. You can read that one or two ways. Unconditional in relation to we've dropped a lot of points this season. Unconditional for the last few years, that even though he nearly went 2 years, we all welcomed him back with open arms. Is that it, Rodney? Is he gone?
I think if you're sending messages like that, and as fans, I mean, we 2 years in a row, he saved us so many points, and I think it might be it for him. I think it's an open, an open secret that his girlfriend doesn't want to be in this country. She wants him back in Spain. He wants to go and be with his girlfriend. So I think it might be it. I think what that means for us is that we've got to seriously look about who's going to be our next number one, and that conversation within the club probably has already begun. I think I think he is the best goalie in the world for me. But saying that, if this is it, I would say thanks, and he's been great, but he will be sorely missed, because I remember when he first joined, everyone said he couldn't catch a button because of his frailty and his size, but he's proved everyone wrong. So yeah, if it is, we need to start looking quite quickly for the next best thing.
And just quickly on that before I go to Ross, I mean, we've spoken about this before. I want De Gea to stay. I do believe he's the best goalkeeper in the world, like you, and I've said it for a number of months now. Well, no more than that, actually. He's been fantastic for the last 3.
He's been brilliant.
He has. But over the last few weeks, I've said he's gone, and people have taken that the wrong way, because I love De Gea. I want him to stay. If we could keep him, it would be fantastic. But he's definitely going. Do you agree with Mourinho, the way he's treated him the last few games of the season? He's going. He's the best goalkeeper in the world. He's not going to be playing the Europa League final. He didn't get to play today. So, in a way, I think it's odd. But what's your interpretation with that?
Do you know, the thing is, again, when it was at the start of the season and Van Gaal was there and we weren't sure whether we were going to keep him, and Real Madrid were sniffing around, Van Gaal dropped him. Do you know, so Mourinho's doing, I think it's either a club policy, or Mourinho's no different than Van Gaal. I think as a manager, they take it as a slight if you want to leave, considering they think so highly of you. I think that if he was to stay, if he turned around and said, I want to stay today, he'd play on Wednesday.
Yeah.
It'd be that simple, And Mourinho is probably feeling upset that he wants to go, and he probably knows this, and he's doing the open kind of like, oh, he's the best goalkeeper, but at the same time, if you don't want to stay, I can't play you. So I wouldn't say it's been unfair, but I can understand.
Yeah. Matthew McFadden's made a contribution. Thanks for that, Matthew. And he says, about the De Gea tweet, I agree on the fact that he'll move on, but the same tweet, almost word for word, was posted this time last season. So we'll take your word on that, Matthew. I'd love him. I'd love him to stay, but I think everything points to the fact that he will go. Ross, anything to add on that? Do you think? Some people. Put it on Twitter last week. 40% voted that he'll stay. So maybe it's not as foregone a conclusion as we think.
I don't think it is. I've always been quite consistent with the fact that I don't think the De Gea transfer will be as easy as everyone thinks it is. There is absolutely no relationship with Manchester United and Real Madrid. And I don't think Madrid will let us, boss them around all summer for De Gea when we're picking out other players that we want in return. I don't think they'll let us. I think Real Madrid will have plan A, B, C and D. And De Gea is obviously their number one target, but they've got others. And I think if this transfer takes any sort of turn, they will go to plan B. So it's no way a foregone conclusion. And, and to throw another spanner in the works, don't know if it makes any difference whatsoever, but his agent is the same agent as Jose Mourinho. So I can't imagine the agent going into Manchester United and digging his heels in, because he represents too many players and too many people here. So it's a double-edged sword for him, to be honest. So, look, I think he would want the move, but I don't think De Gea is that set on Madrid. I think if it didn't happen, I don't think you'd see a massively unhappy De Gea, because he is at Manchester United and he probably does love this club, but I think his heart is in Madrid, but it might not happen. And I've just got a funny feeling it won't.
Kevin McGee says De Gea, and we all hope he does stay. I really do. Bringing it back to Wednesday, because that's what we're building up towards. I personally think there's a lot of United fans out there that sort of go, oh, it's all right, we've got Romero. We've got Romero for the final. Romero can be our goalkeeper next year. What are your... Rod, both two-barreled question. Is Romero good enough to be our first choice keeper next year? And what do you think about Mourinho when he's got the choice on Wednesday? Sentimentality, loyalty, whatever. He's played in every round. Should he be playing on Wednesday? I mean, everyone says yes. I still say no.
If Mourinho wants to be considered a winner, I would say you need to play your best team. Sentiment or no sentiment. I understand that Romero, get my words out, has played in the competition consistently since we've been in it. But we're in the final now. And I think you cannot leave anything to chance. There's not a problem with him being on the bench, should anything go wrong. But I would want our best goalkeeper in goal. And that is what I would want. And if De Gea is going, I'd like that to be his final game, picking up a trophy and having happy memories with us instead of being on the bench and sloping off. I would hope that Mourinho picks the strongest team. In terms of whether he's going to be the number one, I mean, he's had good performances. He's kept some good clean sheets, but I'm not necessarily sold on him being a number one. Because he's been on the bench for far too long for most of the season, apart from, every other 2 weeks. So I couldn't say that I'm 100% behind that. No, not for me.
Harsh Bandit says Romero ain't a number one for United, and Ajax are overrated, says Jurgen Crap. And didn't Romero play for Ajax, or was it PSV, says Jason Bourne 89. De Gea, please stay, says Ewan Gordon. I've heard he watches the channel. But there are rumours that Quartes could go to Real Madrid. No, that's not happening, Joe. Chelsea have got him pinned down, unfortunately. And what are the repercussions if we don't win on Wednesday night? Says Cheesy Gully Side. You think you'll find out on Thursday? And would anyone give Joel Pereira a chance to replace De Gea, maybe rotate with Romero next season? I mean, Ross, I don't know what your thoughts on Romero are. I mean, I don't want him to be our number one next year. I think people are putting him way too close to De Gea, thinking, oh yeah, it's fine, he can replace De Gea. I think the reality is, if De Gea was on the last page of War and Peace, which is a 1,000-page book, Romero wouldn't even be on page 1. They're a world apart. They're not similar. They're not in the same stature. As an outfield player, I'd say it's like comparing Ronaldo to Lukaku. I think it's that sort of gap for me. So I wouldn't have Romero. And what I think Romero's a good goalkeeper. He's an international goalkeeper, but week in, week out in the Premier League, I think it's no coincidence that he's done well in the Europa League. Week in, week out in the Premier League, he can't catch the ball. And every club would just go down the width and put crosses in because he can't catch the ball.
Yeah, the issue I have with it though is the sort of Joel Pereira dilemma, because Mourinho rates him, and he rates him very highly. I haven't really seen a lot of him, to be honest, apart from today, which he didn't really have a lot to do. But
he does look demanding though, and he looks like he can catch a cross.
Exactly. So I like the thought as well. This thought of having a 20-year-old keeper break into United's first team, come through our youth system, is mouthwatering to me. And based on that, there was the last comment you just read, sort of a Romero Pereira rotating thing. I think at some point you have to take a risk. And look, it could be a gamble, and if it fails, January, sign someone else. Fantastic. I'd like to see the gamble being taken, to be honest, because if the lad's as good as Mourinho's talking him up to be, and yeah, he did play well today, I'd love to see him break through. So maybe just keep their squad numbers and just leave the number one hanging for a little while, and or just give it to Pereira. I remember Joe Hart broke through Man City in the same kind of circumstances. He wasn't playing for them really, and I forgot what manager it was. He had to make a decision that season whether it was Shay Given or Joe Hart, and he made a decision for Hart. Look, it didn't work out in the end for Hart. I think he's absolutely crap, and United need to stay well clear. But you need to give the chance, and we need a manager to take the risk. And if De Gea was to go, I wouldn't want to see us bring in another keeper, because you're basically calling, if another keeper comes in and he's 20, say he's a 24, 25-year-old, well, he could be our keeper for the next 10 years. So Pereira instantly has no chance, and he'll be out, he'll be gone, because we'd spend a lot of money on a keeper. So if De Gea was to go, I think now's the right time to invest in someone like Pereira. With a little bit of guidance from Romero. He is experienced. He can't catch a ball, you're right. And to go back to the just to finish it off, he played for the AZ, the Dutch club, not PSV or Ajax.
Yeah, he played for Van Gaal, didn't he? That's why we got him. He's got a good relationship with Van Gaal. Somebody just said there, quite an interesting thing, bring the tone down a little bit. Apparently every final Romero's played in, he's lost.
Fantastic.
I know.
Fantastic.
I don't know whether that's true or not. But Jake Perk's come up with a good one. He says there's good, very good and world class. Romero is a very good goalkeeper and De Gea is world class, which I think is a good representation of what I'm trying to get across about. People just saying Romero's Argentina's number one. So what? Rene Higuita was... Who did he play for? He was crap. Doesn't matter. If they've got no one else to pick from, there we go. I didn't just fart, turn and no. I'm actually sitting on... I sit on one of them ball things. So it just moved a little bit. There's just very quickly as well. There's a lot of people watching tonight, over 1,700, which is fantastic. Remember, this is not the end of the season when it comes to the United Stand. We will still be live every Sunday night. We will still be live at 8:30 every night. We'll be doing Skype Goldbridge twice a week from now on, Monday and Thursday. We've got the Transfer Daily at 7 a.m. There's loads and loads of content, so we won't be going anywhere. Next Sunday, we're going to do our our season review. We have our own season awards, which you can vote in on the website. That'll probably go up on Thursday. But please do drop a like on the video. There's a lot of you watching. Let's see if we can get up to 600 likes. Everybody click up and like. And if you are new, subscribe to the channel. We are a live content channel. So you'll get notified if you click the bell when we go live. And if you are new, you found a great community, which is what I always say. And I hope you enjoyed the trailer that we put up earlier, which Jorty and Evil Duck did. But there's a question that many people have asked me to ask about Manchester United this season, Rodney. Just very quickly about the goalkeeper. I think the goalkeeper, Pereira, could do it. I think more important than the goalkeeper is a decent centre-back to play with Bailly. Because if you've got a good pair of centre-backs in front of you, that shields your goalkeeper. And I think that is very important this season. But what would you change for next season? I mean, I know there's a lot. But what do you think that this side needs to change next season? Looking at the fact, I think we'd all, on the live comments, the guests, everybody watching later on, I think we'd all universally agree, banter or not from rival clubs, second chance on Wednesday night or not, 6th place based on the club we are, the squad we have, the manager we have, the money we've spent, whatever you want to call it, 6th place is pretty embarrassing. It is unacceptable. What do we do to go? I mean, can we go from 6th to 1st? How do we get into the top 4? What do you think we need to do?
Oh, Mark, there are so many answers to that question. I'm actually laughing because that is a problem that Mourinho has been left with. He's got a 3-year problem that he's trying to resolve. We need a striker that can score 20 goals a season plus. We need definitely a new holding centre mid, and we need a centre back, and we probably need replacements on the wings. Which one is a priority? I mean, any one of them could be a priority. For me, goals is always more important. Who are we going to get? I know that you've done your shows about Griezmann, but I'm not sure if he's going to score 20 goals for us. I'm worried in terms of that part of the field. I'm more optimistic in terms of the defensive cover that he might bring in. Lindelof, if that's still possible in terms of centre back. Wing play. We've been linked with some great, wingers in terms of those attacking. Is it Perisic? And I know that Mbappe is a young man, but yeah, if I could right now, I would swap Martial for Mbappe right now. I would do that. That's the one thing that I would change right now. If you ask me, that would be it.
Okay, and same question to you, Ross. I mean, I think what Ronnie says there, I'd probably agree with. Strikers are putting the ball in the back of the net is our problem this year. You can moan about Smalling and Jones and whoever you want to moan about defensively. You can probably even moan about Fellaini to a certain point and the points he's dropped us. But the reality is, if we put the ball in the back of the net as many times as we should have done, especially at Old Trafford, we would be comfortably in the top 4. I don't think we would have won the title this year. I said earlier that, next season's going to be a real leveller because there's no team, I think, that can win the league next year that's going to be playing once a week. Everyone's going to be in Europe, even Arsenal in the Europa. Everyone's in Europe, so next year it's a level playing field. I don't think we could have won the title this year, even if we'd been clinical. I think Chelsea had an absolute breeze playing once a week. But what's important for you that we get right next year?
I think we need to. I think one player come out of it earlier in the season, and it was Zlatan. And I think we need to have a big mentality switch in United. Because I look back at all our great teams, and there was just this elite winning mentality. And as Zlatan said, there were lions on the pitch. But for a young player to come into that team, to look around you and seeing, like, imagine seeing Keane, Scholes, Neville, just winning mentality all over the pitch. And it isn't there in this United team. There's a few, but there's too many talented players, absolutely nice guys, but they just haven't got that lion mentality. I can't describe it any other way. We need to start getting them in. And I think Zlatan, he's right, because he would have seen that. This is a guy that's played with just born winners his whole life. Every team he goes to, they win. And he's come to this United team. And look, I know we've won a cup, but it's not there. That mentality is not there. And you can see it in Pogba, which is probably why he befriended him, apart from him being the most expensive player ever. But that's, for me, we can get all the talented players in the world at our club. If we don't have the mentality switch, we will come fourth, sixth, because that's what happened to Liverpool. And Liverpool have had a lot of talent down the years. They just look at Steven Gerrard. He did not have a winning mentality when it comes to league titles. Might have done it in a cup, couldn't do it in the league. He bottled it, and that's what I mean by talent versus mentality. And I'd rather have a player that's maybe not so talented, with a Roy Keane, style of grit to him, which is rare nowadays. But for me, that's what we need to bring in.
I was going to read some of the comments there, but I think you sort of touched on a couple of things there that there's some really good comments I need to read out. But I've been saying it for years. It's very hard to say it because he was one off and probably my favourite player United have ever had. But Roy Keane, if you dropped him into that team any time in the last 3 years, we'd be in a different position. United are desperate and have been desperate, and I'm amazed we've never gone for all the money we've spent over the last 3 years. I'm stunned we haven't looked for the closest thing there is to Roy Keane and bought it, because that team so many times over the last 3 years has just needed a rocket up the backside, somebody to absolutely obliterate some of our players when they're not performing and grab the team by the scruff of the neck. It's a hard job. There's not necessarily many people like that, but there must be players like that, and that's what we need, Rodney. I think. I don't know what you're going to say.
No, I was going to say, you know what Ross said. Do you know what? Honestly, when you asked me the question initially, I actually wanted to say what Ross said, because the Roy Keane thing, when Mourinho joined, I'm sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, did he not give an open invitation to the previous United players and ask them to come and visit the club at any time?
Yeah.
The third, and I wonder if that has actually happened, because I know a lot of them have sat in the BT Sports studio or wherever else and criticised the team for not doing enough. But maybe the players needed to actually hear it face to face from some of those individuals that are now getting, comfy on a nice sofa.
I don't really understand it, because I love that clip at the old Highbury where Vieira picks on Neville, Roy Keane hears about it, pushes to the front and wants to wring his neck. But if you look behind, a young Wayne Rooney's watching it, and Wayne Rooney's been our captain for the last 3 years. I know people are different, but he saw that, he experienced that. Why is he? I mean, he's just a bad captain, I think, but I really hoped Rooney would have took that on, because he should be able to do that. He's seen how powerful it is, but he's just not capable of doing it, which it is not easy to... I'm not talking about Roy Keane, the player, either. I mean, just somebody with that leadership. Mourinho knows... I can't stand John Terry, but to be fair, he was that for Chelsea. Gerrard was that for Liverpool. That leader is massively important, and I think... Forget your Griezmanns, forget your Bales, forget whoever you've got as your Galactico. If we could go out and get a player like that, and I don't necessarily know who it is, that would be massive. I mean, I wanted De Rossi a few years ago. I thought he would have been perfect from Roma. He's too old now. But somebody who just fights through brick walls and is talented would be so important for us. There were some good comments from you. I just want to read some of them. 5 goals and 3 assists for 89 million, says Malik. I think you know who you're getting at. Yeah, doesn't matter. Stoke to win the league next year, says Charlie Machello. Look, yeah, I think it's a good comment in the sense that unless there's going to be a Leicester next year, all the title challengers next year will have European football. It's a level playing field. It's been very easy for Chelsea this year. A few of you saying we need width. I'd love to see width back at United. I think it's really important. A mentality switch, says Josie Pullis, the special bus, get rid of Mourinho. Mbappe is miles ahead of Martial. I don't think there are many players like that anymore, says Jake Pert. I think he's talking about Roy Keane. There was a great comment, it's whizzed by, basically saying as well that United need to have players on the bench that are going to make an impact when they come on, which I think, Ross, again, is a very, very good point. I've seen Rooney come on a lot of times this season at 70 minutes when we need a result or we need something. And the performance, if it was a 7 out of 10 at 70 minutes, it always drops to like 6. It goes out with a, you want to make subs, and United are well known for making subs around 70, 80 minutes, and we go up a level, we get a late goal. I think for too much this season, we've made subs around that time, and instead of going up a level, the performance fizzles out.
Yeah, and Rooney's a prime example. And I think you answered your own question earlier, Mark, when you talked about why we haven't replaced Roy Keane. It's because we had Wayne Rooney. But I think people mistake Rooney's arguing with the ref as actually having fire in him, because that's gone. All he does is argue with the ref now. The fire needs to be on the pitch. The fire needs to be in challenges, in graft, and it's not there. He just argues with the ref, which sometimes we have needed, to be honest, with the abysmal refereeing, but it just hasn't been good enough. And yeah, you look at our bench a lot this season, and sometimes it's been played like Rooney, Lingard, and Fellaini, and you could argue that Fellaini's the biggest impact player on that bench because he'll actually, bring a different style of football to us. The other two, you sort of look at it. I mean, I looked at Wayne Rooney early in the season. He made a couple of impacts. He scored that goal to make him break the record, which drew us 1-1, I think, which was a bit of a double-edged sword. But they're right. That comment's absolutely right. We need more talent to be brought. We kind of need more talent to be brought into the first 11 to make some of our first 11 the bench impact players. Which is why, and I've been consistently saying that I'd like Martial to start on the bench for the final, because I think he's the only player that would be on our bench that you'd look at if there is 20 minutes left and we are 1-1 or something, to actually make the difference, because there's not a lot of them at United anymore.
Yeah, it was James Rose who said that, and it's a very good comment, and I think it's part of the reason, and it's not been mentioned for a few weeks. If we did just go and spend 12 million on Hernandez, I'd be happy. Stick him on the bench, and this season he would have got us top 4, because we've been desperate for somebody who's clinical. Not everybody has to be a starter, and I think that would go back to the James Rodriguez thing. In fact, let me just talk about that in a moment, because I just remembered we have a United Stand Patreon page, and what we do on a Sunday is I put a question to them, and then if they answer it, I read it out. And the question was, Rooney, do you think he's going to go? Jacob Hexamere says, really think it needs to be his last game. The longer he stays, the less appreciated he'll be when he leaves. Sevi says, agree, he needs to end on a high and not get any backlash for substandard performances. Nate agrees with that, shouldn't play him anymore, he keeps deteriorating and the chances of him having a better season next year are slim. Juan says, definitely need to sell Rooney this summer. He's been a legend for United, but his form has been poor the last seasons. And Jay Daly says he's in grave danger of tarnishing his own legacy the longer he stays. Every fighter thinks they have one final swan song. Rooney had his with that blistering run in the cup final. Very good analogy with the fighter there. Every fighter thinks they've got a comeback, don't they? I don't think he has. But everybody pretty much saying there what Ross said, actually, that it's his legacy now that he needs to be careful about. Forget the money, forget wanting to stay at the big club. Get out while you can. And I think I would agree with that. There is no comeback. Alex said it 2 years ago. He was on the decline. I didn't agree it, but I think it's true. But going back to what we were on about there, about like James Rodriguez and whether we should be signing him, I think the problem with United is it's a big picture. It's not like, let's get Rodriguez and then we can put Mata on the bench. We need to build a team, and your team is not just your first 11; it's your bench. And I think too many times this season, it's not. We haven't got options on the bench. They might be good players, but then they're not game changing. I mean, personally, I think if Fellaini's part of the squad, put him on the bench. Last 10 minutes, you might want to hit it long. Fair enough. And like Ross said there, Martial on the bench on Wednesday, if he is on the bench, at least he's an exciting option off the bench. But we need to We need clinical players. We need leaders. We need centre backs. We need options off the. We need a hell of a lot. It's a big summer, and it will be dependent on what happens on Wednesday. But Atletico Madrid apparently are going to sign Lacazette, Rodney, striker, scored a lot of goals for Lyon. Apparently, Griezmann is the person who's made this deal happen, and he's not going to come to Manchester United. Some people think Lacazette going to Atletico Madrid means he is coming to Manchester United. Do you think Griezmann will come to Manchester United?
I actually hope he doesn't. I know that probably goes against what some people like.
That's a massive statement, mate. Massive.
I know. It's. I know it's not going to go down well, but for me, I want. It goes back to what you said earlier when you talked about leaders. I'm not interested in people who have got nice hairdos and fancy flicks. I want warriors. I want a band of brothers at United. I actually want other teams to turn up at Old Trafford and be worried about how they're going to be treated physically and in terms of football. That's not happened for a long time. We've all kind of agreed that the last kind of warrior that we've seen is Roy Keane, and there isn't that in the squad. I don't need another, fancy Dan footballer to turn up for a big salary and demand £300,000 a week. I want someone that's going to come in and look around the changing room and say, we are all in this together and we're going to fight for every single ball. And I don't know if Griezmann's that kind of player, but I understand that he is one of the most sought after players. And with that, merchandise and marketing and all of that goes with it. But he's not the player that I would bring in. That's
who
just
would you
my
bring
opinion.
in then? Because, I mean, just to... Griezmann's Rooney's replacement for me, so who would you bring in?
Give me a minute.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. Because there are so many. What you find, what I found, there are so many names that have been floated around in the media that are the cachet names, and it's always linked to De Gea, and wherever he goes, we might get this player or that player, or we might, bring in someone else in terms of a swap deal because we're going to lose someone. We were linked to a number of players from Monaco, and they've got like 4 or 5 players that we could probably bring in. For me, you could probably look at a Bernardo Silva, but then you start to look at exactly. Yeah, but then you start to think about, well, if he comes in, who else is going to go? Because really, he's playing the number 10 role. Griezmann's playing the number 10. We like Mata. We all like Mata. So would he go? Mkhitaryan's coming. He hasn't had a great season. Does that mean he's not going to stay? I mean, really, when United were great, they had 4 strikers. And we could rotate and bring people off and bring them on. And all of those strikers were astute. They could score goals, but they could handle themselves. I don't want just Griezmann to turn up and be one of those players who is not going to be used to the physicality of the league, because it isn't just Real Madrid that are going to knock him about, and he's going to get it from Stoke or West Brom or West Ham, and I don't think he'll be able to cope against a team like that. But that, again, that's just my opinion.
I think what I like about Griezmann, apart from I said I'd like to sign him last summer and this summer, is just clinical, and I think really need somebody who's clinical. I think that's been our biggest problem this season. But Ross, I mean, do you think we'll get him?
You know what? I think Rodney's points are absolutely fantastic, to be honest. But again, I'm with you, Mark. I'm the talent will lead me to wanting him because he is such a talent, clinical. Yeah, it may be even a set piece taker, which we've struggled with all season, and I would like to get him in, but it needs to be more. We can't. If you were giving me the option that we only had sort of 90 million to spend, I'd say no. I'd rather have 3 £30 million players because the job's that huge. So as long as we get him, I think we will get him. By the way, just to answer that question, I think he is coming. Champions League permitting, because I think we're the only club in the world that pay his buyout clause. And I think Atletico Madrid, once we hit the buyout clause, there's nothing they can do. And I think once United throw 300 grand a week at him and offer him to play for his boyhood club that he loved alongside, his national teammates as Pogba and Martial. I think the lure will be too much for him, especially if we get Champions League. But yeah, it's a tough. He is a divider. I think it's easy to get blinded by the big transfer, but there is talent behind that, a big talent. But yeah, he maybe not be the warrior that we need. We need to buy him and a warrior.
Well, yeah, I agree. I think we need to buy 5 or 6 players. I think Griezmann's one to come in. I mean, Alexis Sanchez is still potentially a possibility, as is Bernardo Silva, as is James Rodriguez, as is maybe 3 or 4 players that aren't fashionable to mention that Mourinho has maybe been scouting all season. There will be players like that. There's a couple of players I'm going to talk about on the 7 a.m. show tomorrow, one of which I would love us to sign. He ticks the box of exactly what we need. I'm not mentioning him now because you won't watch in the morning, but he would be perfect. I don't want Benzema or Sean O'Leary. He's snubbed us too many times. No. But Griezmann's not the number 9. I keep saying that to everybody. Griezmann is not the Zlatan replacement, and the Zlatan replacement may well be more important than any player, Rodney, because we need somebody. As much as people moan about Zlatan, and I totally accept that he's missed a lot of chances this year, he scored 28 goals. If we can get anybody to get 28 goals next year, we're not doing something wrong, and that's not necessarily going to be easy.
No, I mean, yes, I'm like you. It's Zlatan has missed a lot of chances, but he scored that many goals. Putting the ball in the back of the net is probably the hardest skill there is.
We've certainly found that this year.
we've made it an art form in not scoring. But the rumours, when you think about even with Rooney, imagine say Rooney goes back to Everton, statements that are made by their manager about a particular player that if he doesn't sign, he's being sold. Then there's the talk of Lukaku. Mourinho might sign him. The rumours that are rumbling around, and me being a United fan and like you, I'm sure you probably think Lukaku never turns up on the big games. Is he really the kind of player that we want? I know you're not a fan of Harry Kane, but again, this season he scored so many goals. To find a goal scorer that's going to fit into our system is probably the biggest problem that we've got. And it goes back to Mourinho's point. He goes, there were players that were sold that should never have been sold. As you said, if we had 12 million, we'd get Hernandez. Really, Hernandez should still be at United.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't be in the problem and that's the bit that really hurts me, because Mourinho, for all of the kind of media focus that he has to deal with, he knows that there were players that he's working with that he would never ever buy, but he has to work with them and try and instill in them a mentality that is currently lacking and has been lacking for 3 years. So again, I'm confident about Wednesday in terms of what we're going to do, but in terms of next season, I'm excited, but I'm anxious because I don't want us to spend too much money. I don't want us to buy the wrong players. And when I think of us spending £90 million on Pogba, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's not going to be worth £90 million, but when I look at Leicester and I think they only accepted 30 million for Kante, I mean, what were we thinking?
It's not just us with Kante. I mean, every single Chelsea had no European football last year. Anybody who did, they took their eye off the ball. Arsenal, United, City, we all took our eye off the ball on that one. It was a big mistake, and Chelsea certainly benefited from it and 1 game a week. But yeah.
Mark, could I say one more thing? When you think about the Leicester team, and they're not in Europe now, and what would you say if United went and got Vardy? And they said, we'll give you 1 year. If we win on Wednesday and we say, right, we're going to get Vardy and we give you 1 year, what do you think?
For me, not good enough. What do you think, Ross?
Sorry, mate, I'm the mute button, but nah, not for me, mate. Unfortunately, I don't think he should be playing for England, let alone us.
I'm going to cut it up there. We've done the hour, and I've got stuff to go off and do. But I really enjoyed that. Thanks for having you on, Rodney.
Thanks a lot. No worries.
Just shows again, Skype Goldbridge tomorrow night. A few people have been trying to Skype in, but obviously I'm not going to take the call. We've got a group call on for the Sunday night show. But it just shows Rodney started like Xander on the Skype Goldbridge shows and has made his way onto the Sunday show. So it can happen and it will happen again in the future with people. So great to have him on. If you want to come on tomorrow night, 8:30, Skype Goldbridge, you Skype in, you set the story. I don't know what the script's going to be. I'm sure we'll be talking about Wednesday. I'm sure Lingard will feature. I'm sure signings will feature. But yeah, it's your show tomorrow night at 8:30. Please do drop a like. Great debut by Rodney. And Ross, obviously, we may not speak again till Wednesday, but it's going to be an interesting week ahead.
Massively interesting. Yeah, I really enjoyed that with you, Rodney, tonight. Some great points. A great show, to be honest.
Yeah.
Wednesday, mate, it's a big one. And I'm looking forward to coming. Hopefully, I'll get invited on the show, Mark. And wow, yeah.
Oh, you will do. You will do. We've got some special things planned for Wednesday, including 2 Manchester United black away tops that are brand new out and look absolutely fantastic. We'll be giving them away at half time. But it was a great show because it whizzed by, and sometimes you're here at 10 to 9 now and you're like, what else are we going to talk about? But it's whizzed by, so definitely a great show. Really enjoyed it. Lots of you watching, hopefully a lot of you new. Like I said, we don't stop for the summer. In fact, it goes up a gear. I've done 2 summers on the United stand now and it just goes mad. So there's loads. We will be live at 8:30. We'll still have the 7am shows and we'll be reacting to all sorts of stuff. So just keep yourself subscribed, keep that notification button bell ticked, and strap yourself in. But it's going to be. We've got 2 summers. We're basically a junction. We're going to be active in the summer transfer window. It just depends which road we're going down. Champions League, that's the one we want. Europa League, it will still be interesting, but not as good. The one thing I forgot to say about the number 9, when Rodney was saying there, as much as we speculate, you can guarantee Mourinho knows who the number 9 is, and I wish we did, but none of us do at the moment. Thanks everyone for watching. Back tomorrow at 7am. Give it a watch. That one player I think would be perfect for us, and obviously tomorrow night at 8:30. And speak to you all later. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks for watching.